What is up, Wizards fans? Welcome to another Believe in Wizards podcast. I'm Matt Modderno. I've got Osman Baig joining me here today. Jihadi is doing family stuff for this week, so Oz was nice enough to jump in here and hold it down for him. Oz, how's it going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. Summer League's a wrap. We're in the kind of getting into that dead time or summer, though, where I'm already getting antsy. It's like, all right, what's next?
Exactly. I think Wizards Twitter is getting antsy from what we saw today, so
Yeah.
maybe we can give them some actual basketball-related things to talk about before
Why
we all
can't we
tear
ever
ourselves
just be in
apart.
the Vegas championship game?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it will be.
Some year under this front office, I think we will win Summer League for whatever good that does for us. I have a feeling that that's coming at some point. So we'll see. But you never know. So we'll go with that. So I think most of what I want to talk about here today is kind of Summer League, what we saw from people we like, talk about the new coaches, and then we'll talk about where that goes with the roster. First, I just want to mention we do have some new merch for the show. It's the Washington Wizards. It's a little French-themed thing in favor or in support of our new guy, Bilal Coulibaly. It's got instead of Washington Monument, there's an Eiffel Tower on there. So I think it looks pretty cool. It's a way to show the support subtly for our rookie here a little bit. We'll be giving a couple of those away for everybody who subscribes to the show on YouTube. And if you are listening to this and you are not subscribed on YouTube, even if you just listen to it in podcast form, if you click that little subscribe button for us on the YouTube channel, that's really appreciated. It makes it more discoverable for other people. Also a like button if you're watching this, also super helpful. So we appreciate all that kind of stuff. As always, we're brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard peach teas, hard half and halves. Can't go wrong. It was hot as shit all weekend. I played in a tennis tournament and pounded through a bunch of those afterwards after I got my ass kicked. I got crushed. I'm just so fat and out of shape at this point in my life.
They probably cheated.
It's like when you saw Antoine Walker after he immediately retired, he blew up like 85 pounds. I think that's where I'm at in my tennis career. So it was rough, man. But that's okay. That's what drinks are for. And if you want to bet on anybody I'm playing against, you can go to Bet Online. I don't know if they have our USTA Rec League odds on there or not, but the odds would not be in my favor, I think. So for everything else, Bet Online is your number one source for all your betting needs. You can get your latest odds, lines, matchup info for baseball, boxing, golf, professional tennis, probably more likely. Bet Online continues to be your fast and easiest way to get your wagers, live betting info, casino and card games, all that good stuff. And you can head to the website today and get in on the action. You can use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, and get your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, Oz, let's just get into it here. Summer League took place. The Wizards were pretty respectable. I think it was a much improved product over last year's Summer League roster, in my personal opinion. How'd you feel about the experience overall, I guess?
It wasn't bad. I mean, it always seems like it's too short-lived. That's kind of the whole Summer League product, especially if you're not one of the teams that also play in Utah or play in California ahead of time. Like if you're a Lakers fan, they've played about 7 games. So you've kind of seen what you needed to see and got a pretty good sample or a decent enough sample. Sure. In Vegas, it goes quick. Like we started, it wasn't that long ago that they started playing and kind of already a wrap unless you're the Rockets, and Rockets are playing tonight against, I can't recall who, but that's the championship game over there. Yeah, against Cleveland. So it's quick, and it's always funny. The season ends, calendar is ahead. Like you have the lottery, you have the draft, you have free agency, and Summer League, and it all happens one after the other, and it just goes fast. I thought we saw what we needed to see for the most part. Bilal definitely stood out. I mean, and it's not statistically, and this is kind of what's always annoyed me about people. It's all confirmation bias. There's so many people who are like into the draft and want to say, this is my board, this is who I've seen. So Summer League has kind of become a confirmation of what of draft lead up.
Whatever you wanted to think, you can justify pretty much anything.
Now, like if you've seen Bilal, he pops. I don't care what the shooting numbers say. Like he was exciting. And the flashes that you saw, like, showed a glimpse. And even the flash that he saw, I think, showed that he should be playing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense will translate right away. Will Dawkins was on the Off the Bench podcast today with Chris Miller and talked about how, like, hey, athletically, he can get in there right now. And I believe that. I don't think we'll see him, like, trying to facilitate offense or any of that kind of stuff they were trying to do on the Summer League team. But, like, go be athletic, chase guys around, run really hard, finish on the break. I think that can happen like instantly for them.
Other funny, like interesting thing. We've seen some guys come in as rookies and struggle with confidence early. You definitely saw that with Johnny Davis last year. Yeah. Corey Kispert didn't really find his 3-point shot till the latter portion of his rookie season going into last year. Denny Avdia couldn't really start a little okay on his shooting, but then that went. It's funny. Bilal is probably the youngest rookie that we've had of that group. He came in, confidence does not seem to be an issue at all with him. So that's kind of one of the things, and it's kind of you as you see more and more, you kind of just learn. So what I've kind of taken from the last few is, hey, who's confident, who's ready to step in. His confidence is there. The way he approaches the game is right. Like, it seems the right way. There's a ton to be excited about. And he like, I've always thought there were players that we drafted that had potential. This is the first guy that we've drafted in a long time that I think you saw glimpses of. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you saw glimpses of potential, star potential. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt the same way. And especially like the chase down blocks and shit like that. Like, we haven't really seen that much here. I tweeted something last year after like 4 G League games that Johnny Davis was the best shot blocking guard we'd had since John Wall. And people like tore me up for that. But honestly, I still stand by it because he is a pretty good defensive player like that. But the fact that you could potentially play Coulibaly at one of the guard positions and he's going to average like 2.5 blocks a game is nuts. Wow. I mean, he was swatting people.
I'd say in terms of summer leagues, it's the most exciting summer league a Wizards rookie has had since John Wall's. I'd even put it ahead of Beal's. Beal's had a very steady, productive one, but it wasn't like a flashy popping plays like this. I think this is the second best summer league I've seen since Wall's. In terms of like the glimpses that you need.
Supernova Glenn Rice Jr.
Oh, that's true. Totally. I can't believe I didn't, but he wasn't a rookie then. He was a second-year guy.
That's true. Like, he had a leg up at that point.
He had a leg up at that point. Yeah.
The guy averaged 12 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a half a steal, 2.3 blocks, was just good. Shot only 40% from the field, 18% from 3, 68% from the free throw line. And I still thought it was like a pretty successful experience for him. And you talked about that confidence. I think a large part of that was they gave him confidence by saying, here is the ball. Like, you have the keys to this. Whereas like even Davis last year, it's like, oh, you're point guard of the future. But here are these 3 guys we brought in that will never play in the NBA. And we're going to actually let them run the offense. And the same thing with Kispert. Like, he needed a point guard and they didn't have anybody that could really set him up. And he just like stood there, like, with his hands up, like, what do I do here? So I think they told Coulibaly, like, we are confident enough in you to let you kind of run the show and we'll just live with whatever happens. And I don't give a shit about the turnovers and stuff like that. Like, that's summer league in general. So I was just like pleasantly surprised by him overall. The poise, you saw enough flashes, like you said. Maybe again, I just want to believe here too. Objective people in the draft space were all like, wow, what a great summer league from Coulibaly. So I don't think this is just us being like, overinflating our own guys like usual.
Yeah, I agree. And even if I'm actually comparing it to like Kelly Oubre came in, put up good raw numbers, did not put up good efficiency. Yeah. But I wouldn't even compare the two because he was forcing bad shots. He wasn't getting to shots. He wasn't getting to spots that you could see translating consistently. You know what I mean? Yep. So I think in this case, Bilal would get to the basket, he'd maybe miss at the basket. And that's more just adjusting to the league, adjusting to the different level athletes you're going against, just adjusting. It's like a strength adjustment also. Like, we've seen that for a few years now. Guys get better attacking the basket as they get a little more acclimated to the league. So he was getting to his spots. He was getting his shot up. He was getting separation. He was just missing. And that's more of a function of not being raw, like in terms of like an Oubre who was raw and also was making some bad decisions. This was more raw in terms of the right decisions, the right athleticism, the right kind of feel for the game. He just wasn't physically ready to make all those shots yet, but that can come quickly, I think. Or will definitely should come.
It came quickly this season in general. This was a guy that was not supposed to play at the level he played with. People thought he would be in next year's draft. And then all of a sudden you've got people like Wembanyama, who's his boy, but still saying like he should be a top 5 pick. And, maybe we didn't see that kind of player right now, but it's hard to argue with. That is my cat for anyone watching this on YouTube. He loves podcasts and the Wizards. But the other guy I want to talk about here a little bit is just Johnny Davis. We teased this. I thought he looked much more confident. Once again, I don't really care about the shooting percentages. It just sort of sometimes people that can't shoot really well over a 5-game sample size or 4-game sample, and then vice versa. Yeah, he can't shoot it. Like, I know he can't. I'm not saying that he like had this, they were, he's a great shooter, they just didn't fall kind of thing. He can't shoot, but he did everything else pretty well. He still managed to score, not super efficiently, but he was light years better than last summer league. And I buy the defense like right now. I think he can guard on an NBA court tomorrow. And they need a couple more guys like that. So I maybe got a little ahead of myself and tweeted out that he should start day one. But what I meant by that was like, if you want to see the role you want him to play long-term, it's less about like, he's not going to be the guy like putting up 15 points on the second unit. Like his best long-term role is like a defensive stopper type, move the ball, score if he needs to. I saw somebody mention like less athletic Courtney Lee, and I actually don't think that's like a terrible comp for the type of role you want for him. But like he's not going to be the guy that we probably should have taken with the 10th pick ultimately. But if he can like max out eventually as a 5th starter, as just like a role-playing defender who can eventually hit open corner threes, I think we'd all take that based on what we saw last year. Like that's a huge step up from maybe what we thought we were going to get, last summer.
Yeah, I think last summer you didn't see anything positive from Summer League. You were just hoping that it was, hey, it's just Summer League. Don't judge the guy too early. Mm-hmm. This season, even the first couple of games, he had very good stretches. Then he would have one bad shooting quarter that would kind of bring his numbers down. He had one. The third game was not a good game, and then the fourth game was a really good game. Sure. So, but I think the one constant you saw was the defense. I'll admit, I think the conversation gets a little dumb. He is like, if you could go back and redraft, obviously he's not the 10th pick. Yep. Does that mean you're just going to punt on him and you can't find a productive player there? I don't think that should be the case. You already have him. He's under contract. See what you have. And if that player becomes a productive player, great. The silly kind of I'll just say the stupid part that people say on Twitter is like, oh, well, he's not a quick, they take that whole quick twitch. That's just like a nice thing to say now. Oh, this guy's not quick twitch. This guy's, he's not quick to twitch offensively. He's
that
not
matters so much less in today's league anyway.
Also, like how many guys are taking one dribble and just blowing by people and just dunking the ball? Yep. It's all about creating separation. So if you watch him defensively, he covers a ton of ground very quickly. Mm-hmm. Why? Because he doesn't waste his footwork on defense is great. Yep. So he doesn't waste steps. So if you don't waste steps and if you have great footwork and if you have good defensive IQ, you can be a very high level defender. I wouldn't describe Marcus Smart as much stronger. He's not a quick twitch. He's not like blowing by anyone or running like the fastest guy on the court or the best sleeper on the court. Neither is Josh Hart. Neither is Sadorensky was one of our better defensive guards, and he was a leaper. He wasn't great laterally, but his footwork and he knew how to use his
positioning was good. He was smart enough to know where to be. I mean,
exactly.
He worked hard.
So if you see that fourth game where he blocked that shot at the rim, I think it was a dunk attempt. Mm-hmm. So Johnny Davis, the non-athlete, was able to somehow recover, help off his man, recover and block a dunk, then got out in transition and finished on a Euro off the feed from Bilal. Why can't that be a role going forward? I don't care how he shooting 16 times a game, because he's never going to be a player who should be shooting 16 times a game. Yep. I care if he takes 10 shots, can he finish in transition? Can he make the occasional three? So his numbers overall, shooting wasn't great, 41% overall, 43% from three on 3.5 attempts, 83% from the free throw line. So I think can he be a decent enough shooter? Yes, I think he could probably become a 34% 3-point shooter if he's taking the right shots. Do I want him shooting 5 mid-range jump shots a game? No, I don't. So I think there's a valuable player there if he's used the right way. And he looked more comfortable. He got to his spots. Is he ever going to live up to his billing as a 10th pick? No, but that he doesn't have to still be a productive player.
Once you get drafted, it no longer matters where you got drafted. The only thing it matters for essentially is just if you're a first round pick or not, and the length of your contract, and whether you're 9th or 30th, it doesn't really matter beyond that point. I mean, it would have been great if we took him at 30 and he turned into a better player, but if you take him at 10 and he only turns into a certain level player, it just is what it is. You want to see the best for him that you can see for him. He's on the books. Obviously, he's more expensive as the 10th pick than he would have been 27 or some other thing, but that's not an us problem to have to worry about right now based on the rebuilding nature of the team. It just if you had told me based on the player we saw last year that he would have put up 17-5-3 in one game, 14-4-3 in another, 12-8-2 in one, and 22-2-3 in another, I think I would have said like, yes, please sign me up for that. Yeah. I don't give a shit about the percentages. And again, that also was without like a real point guard setting him up for easy stuff. And I saw a lot of people complain like, oh, he had tunnel vision and he should have passed this. We still don't know what they're telling them. I'm sure part of this conversation was, Johnny, we want you to go out there and we want you to try to put the ball in the hoop. If you are open, we want to see you take it, especially as a second-year guy with some cachet on this team. Like, that's kind of what happens. You have guys that, like, give you the keys, and they're not paying you to go out in Summer League and be deferential. They want to see if you can do that stuff. And would it have been better if he was more efficient while doing it? Yeah, so be it. But the other thing is most of this development happens in off seasons. And I think this year we've seen a bigger player. I think the shot does look better. It's still not good. It's got a ways to go, but it's like, I mean, you tweeted this out before anybody, the bow-leggedness is gone and stuff like that. And I think that's a win. But last summer he didn't get to do anything because of the injuries and all that stuff. I think next year, like that third year is where, like, if we see a much better shooter, that wouldn't surprise me. And by much better, I mean, going from 30% to 34% would be awesome. A leap to take even next year. So all I want to see from him this year is, can you move the ball as a secondary creator? Can you defend the shit out of people? And can you hit wide open shots if you get them? And that, I would take that as a win for him in year 2.
Yeah. He also had 2.8. Like he had the ball in his hands a lot.
Sure.
And I think he only had 1.5 turnovers a game in Summer League.
Yeah.
So considering how he can't, everyone says, oh, he can't drive by anyone, can't do this. He had the ball a ton. Yep. He took a lot of shots. I think he took 16.5 shots a game. So I don't know what the usage is, but I'm sure it's a big number.
It's pretty high.
On that usage, on that volume, he had a 2.8 assists to 1.5 turnover ratio, which is not bad.
Yeah.
So that's also a positive. His steals, I think he was over 1.5 steals a game. Like there were just a lot of just overall positives. If the shooting efficiency was better, it would pop more. A lot of people have just made up his mind that because, and he's not like the quick twitch, bouncy. You're not going to just see him and be like, oh, wow, but that doesn't mean he still can't be a productive player. And like kind of going back to that defensive point, do you need that to be a good defensive player? John Wall was one of the best athletes we've had here on this team, could not stay in front of a quick guard to stay his life.
Just love those reach around steals, baby.
Yeah, love the reach around steals and had his defensive moments. But if you put someone 6 foot and under on him, he had no chance, He had no chance to guard them. So it's obviously,
it's not what you want from a guy that you take in the lottery, but like, you can't tell me that he can't be a better, bigger, stronger version of Matthew Dellavedova at the end of the day, a guy that started on a finals team at some point. Like he can be a defensive pest who can move the ball a little bit. And I'm not saying Matthew Dellavedova is the ceiling before somebody runs with that, but I'm just saying like that kind of guy where like, you're not really a point guard, you're not really a scorer, but you're out there, you defend people, you get in the way, you make some shots when you need to. Like, I mean, if he's that, I'll just take that at this point. I mean, I've become Johnny Davis defender, even though I didn't like the pick, but it is what it is.
It's also about what you want out of basketball. Like the whole kind of Josh Robbins story about kind of what model they're following. They're trying to create the right habits, create the right culture. Part of that is playing defense. That last rebuild that they started in 2019, we were historically bad defense. So the problem with that is, okay, you're trying to rebuild, but the culture is starting at a negative. Like you just can't, you can't start that way. So right now, this time, you potentially could start that culture reset, that rebuild with like a Bilal playing defense, with a Johnny playing defense, with a Denny perhaps playing defense, and then and that actually creates culture. That like creates, hey, we're going to play defense here. Kuzma plays defense. That's a better start to me. That's a better, if the goal is create the right foundation, create the right habits, that's better than like being a historically bad defensive team and, just like kind of just shooting your way to a 25-win season. So, and then look, it's also a simple just way how basketball worked. Like you saw it against in Oklahoma City. When we separated in that game, Bilal and Johnny got very disruptive defensively. We scored in transition. We got easier shots on offense. That's how the lead swelled. That's how basketball works. You get stops, you get easier field goal attempts. You don't have to make offense hard to be efficient. If you create easier opportunities for yourself, offense goes up, defense is already playing well, the lead swells. That's just sometimes basketball is that simple.
He's shown to be a worker on the defensive end just from the effort he puts into it already. I hope that translates on the offensive end because it is still really ugly. I tweeted this out in one of the games, but I've never seen a player that shoots more times where the ball goes 90% of the way down the hoop and still comes out. He's got to just have like some ugly spin on this thing or something. But the guy had like multiple underhand scoop layups that rattled out after like touching every part of the rim. And it's just like, I mean, not for him to catch a stray here, but like between he and Denny, it's like, can we have two guys miss more like fucking wide open layups than any person? Like, it's not a good start. So that has to improve for him to be playable. And, we'll see if it can be. This is the year to find out. I would give him reps. And maybe the starting him is a little too aggressive thing, but I want to see him play minutes with the starters, and staggering that is a fine way to go about it. So
it's also kind of where I struggle a little bit too, because if you look at Denny, you said Denny, Denny's his name. I mean, Denny's name also. So he has a lot of the similar struggles.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's still perceived as having a higher upside. I see a little more upside there, but kind of, you have two guys. One is a wing. Yeah. One is a guard. One is a wing. One's a guard. They have the same strengths, the same issues. Mm-hmm. Why does there seem to be a lot less patience with the guy who is only entering his second year as a pro? So,
one of them is Luka and one of them isn't. I mean, that's just really what it comes down to. Speaking of our other draft pick, Tristan Vukcevic. I kind of didn't love the pick, mostly because I just liked other players on the board more, to be honest with you. And I don't really kind of love the notion of like a stretch five who can't really protect the rim a whole lot or isn't switchable, but it was pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't say like he like took Summer League by storm or anything, but he had a couple games where he made some shots, and the ones he didn't, it looked like he should have made those shots. He's never going to be particularly great defensively, in my opinion, but maybe he can be passable enough. And if you're going to be big and slow, at least have like good hands and instincts. And he poked a couple balls away. Like he tried to do some of the right stuff. And I found that honestly more encouraging than anything. Like he didn't really back down from the challenge. He's slow. So if he was bad defensively, it's not a lack of effort. It's just he's slow. I mean, like it's just unfortunately kind of where he's at right now. It doesn't mean he can't get faster and quicker and more athletic, in NBA strength and conditioning and things like that too. So I thought it was mostly encouraging. Still not kind of my guy, but I think I was pleasantly surprised overall with how he looked for most of it.
Yeah, the IQ was there. The awareness was there. The shooting, the form looked good. He looked very fluid on the floor. He's got size. Now, what I can't tell is there a chance for there to be a ceiling higher than but I know I'm not saying his name right, Bjelica? The guy who's on the Kings.
What's Bjelica?
Bjelica. Because I saw some similarities to Bjelica, and then I saw, okay, maybe there's a little bit more there. And I guess that's going to depend on how strong he gets, how much time he puts in the weight room, like kind of where he grows from here. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a nice floor for that type of player. Do I think he's ever going to start? I don't know. But there's definitely enough there to still be intrigued by the pick and happy with what he showed in his first summer league.
I think
I like the little step back three. That was a nice one.
That was cool. I think I saw at least enough to know, like, all right, this guy can be a rotation player in the NBA long term. Yes. And if you can just guarantee you got that with a 42nd pick, like I'm cool. Like no argument. Yeah. Like just keep it moving.
And if he gets stronger with the basketball and if he gets physically stronger, then there's a chance for more. We've seen, but everyone could slow down with the Joker comps, but it's, but at the same time, there's enough there to be definitely excited for and not think that you got a really low floor player. I think there is definitely a high enough floor there to be excited with some potential ceiling.
If there's a Vukcevic hive 3 years from now that's telling me if the Wizards didn't squander him, he could have been Nikola Jokic, I'm gonna want to like jump out my second floor window here. I can only take that with one player at a time. But yeah, I hope he's pretty good. Let's just talk about the Golden State guys real quick, and then we can kind of move on to some other topics here. I think I liked Rollins more than you did. I think the defense was pretty rough early. He's not a point guard. I keep seeing people do that. Like he actually made some better reads than I thought. And because he got into the paint a little bit, like that's the thing the Wizards team was missing last year in general, just like penetrating and without even having like great vision, he was just able to like make easy passes enough of the time to get a few assists. And I think he pushed double-digit assists twice in 2 of those games, if I remember correctly. But I like him. to me, he's like a sixth through eighth man ceiling kind of scoring combo guard off the bench. And I'm okay with that. If, he turns into a defender along the way, that's great. He's got the length to do it. I think he's reasonably athletic enough. It's just a want to thing. So hopefully that's something they're emphasizing with him too. But I saw enough there to be kind of overall pleasantly, just pleased with the overall showing from him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with him at the end of the roster. Definitely, he's not a point guard. And that's my summer league gripe always, when you don't have a decent enough point guard, because then they're not really putting other players in position where you want to see them.
Sure.
So when he drives down, and I remember it was the Oklahoma City game where you could hear the coach saying, move the ball, move the ball, move the ball. And he shoots a fadeaway after a no pass possession, really at the beginning of the game. And Jamal Crawford actually said that. He was like, hey, the coach is saying move the ball. That's not really the shot you want to take there. And then there was another play later that game where there was a player ahead in transition by himself. He decided to keep it himself, not pass it to the wide open player and take a layup. It's like, okay. But there is like this quickness, there's on-ball ability. There's even on-ball defensive ability, where I noted where he was kind of a mess defensively was anytime they were in like transition, he just gave up. He basically gave up, was waiting at the 3-point line for someone to get the rebound and give him the
outlet to him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I was like, come on, man, you're not established enough in the league where that's what your mentality can be on defense. But I'm not as high on him as you are, but I see, look, there's an NBA player there, and I would keep him around and see if he develops. And if he develops, great. If he doesn't, he's someone that's included in it. He's included as a salary filler in a trade at the trade deadline.
I think where I'm at is, at the very least, the things he was bad at in Summer League are very like fixable things. Like, he has the tools to defend people. It's just he didn't seem to want to do it a reasonable percentage of the time. Like, like if somebody emphasizes that you have to do that to play, you either do that or you don't play. And maybe that's something they can work on. I watched enough Santa Cruz Warriors games last year to think he was like a respectable enough defender. So I don't know if that's, hey, we didn't even have time to implement a defensive system, or we're just not asking you hard enough to do that. I don't know. But I also thought he was more controlled last year in the G League, but his role was like, here's the ball, go score points. And I think one of the things when guys like that get traded early in their career, it's a mental level set for them of like, I'm not the featured guy here anymore. Like, you got to understand your place in the pecking order. Like, you were a young piece for Golden State. You're not, I mean, like, are you here? I think they'll have to kind of work with that, work with him to understand like where he fits in the priority things. Like, do they care about his development more than a Johnny Davis if they both play for the Go-Go some next year? Like, we'll have to see. Similar with Patrick Baldwin. Like, if he and Vukcevic both ended up on the Go-Go, like, they really, realistically are going to do the same kind of things for you, like be 6'10 plus and shoot a bunch of threes. So like who gets the, the nod in some of those situations?
Right. It's funny. I was at a baseball tournament all weekend, so it's just stuck in my head. But like, you even heard the coach talking about maturity at the plate. Are you just going to swing for the fence every time, or are you going to hit to the second base side so you can get your runner from second over to third? So, and that's similar to what you're saying. Is Rollins going to do the play for his teammate? Or does he think, I got traded, I have to establish myself. The way I'm going to establish myself is I have to shoot the basketball. So that's the part I don't know. Like, I think defense, you have to want to do it all the time.
Sure.
You can't just selectively choose to do it. You're not always going to do it because the athletes and the players in the NBA are too good. But like, it just to me, when he was basically like did the reach around steal attempt and hung out at the 3-point line while his teammates were defending like a 4-on-3 or 3-on-2, I was just like, that
comes with the rude awakening. You end up Jerome Robinson and you're out of the league before the end of your first contract, or you figure it out and you become good enough that, maybe you get out there and still score the ball.
Right. Now on Patrick Baldwin, look, the shooting's real. I think everyone's always known the shooting is real. There were a couple, I think was it the third or fourth game where he did not shoot well.
Yeah.
And he really did nothing else. And that's kind of that's the whole Patrick Baldwin. That's why, look, he showed enough to be
some rebounds and stuff, but it's not like he's doing anything.
If that shot is not going in, you're really,
it's limited.
It's like kind of one of those players. So like, you didn't find a gem, I don't think. And nor do I think that they thought they found a gem. I think he was a filler. Maybe Golden State wanted to get off that contract to reduce their luxury tax bill. Maybe the Wizards wanted to take a look. We don't really know who drove the Patrick Baldwin portion of that trade. But it's did you get like a shooting specialist? Probably. Sure. And I think recognize that that's what you have. And if he grows from there, great. If not, that's kind of what you're going to get. And he has to be viewed in that type of light. I don't think there's some type of crazy all-around player upside, but let's see,
If he and Rollins, either of them end up like competent rotation players, down the road in 3 years when this team is good again, I think that's a win. If you take one of the two and you get that, I'm cool. But we'll see. There
are going to be games where Baldwin comes in, knocks down 5 threes, and everyone's like, wow. And he's
Rashard Lewis.
Exactly. I think the other games where he goes 0 for 3 from 3, and you're like, and he gives up 10 points, and you're like, okay, what do we do now? And what you do now is you just put him on the bench, and you kind of ride him when he's hot, take him out when he's not.
Similar with Vukcevic, though, like there were a couple games where like he got like in there and made some deflections and things like that. Yeah. And he's not going to be like a defensive stalwart, but like I'm okay if like you're at least putting in effort. You know what I mean? Like there were times where like Bertans would just stand there and like people would like drive past his noodle armed ass, and now it's like. At least you've got Baldwin's like trying. I mean, he's not going to be great, but maybe he can get better. No, he
tried. Like I remember the first game he was against Mathurin, and he pushed him kind of behind the backboard and forced a miss. He competed. He showed me more defensively than I expected.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100% where I'm at. Let's move on to the coaching staff here real quickly because we got to get you out of here. David Vanterpool it was announced that he will be hired. I guess they're still kind of working through that. For anybody not familiar, this is a local guy, right? He went to Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring. I've played pickup ball there, so he and I are basically the same person now. He was assistant coach for CSKA Moscow with the Blazers, for like 7 years, with the Timberwolves the last couple before most recently with the Brooklyn Nets 2 seasons ago. So this is a great pickup in my mind. I think both Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum have said that Vanderpool is huge for them from a development standpoint. And Lillard specifically said that like Vanderpool was the guy who helped him turn into a leader and things like that. And like work on himself, as like the focal point of the team. And I think it's just cool that Vanderpool played for the Wizards. I talk about this all the time. Like I would love to have more former Wizards on the coaching staff. Granted, I don't think that's what anyone will remember him for, is his 22 games that he played for a bad Wizards team in 2000, 2001. Or maybe it was 01, 02. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. But he averaged like 5 points and 3 assists in 22 games. And I just like kind of cool, though, at least. We brought a local guy home. He played for the team, and he's got some pedigree. And, good players liked him and said he helped them get better. To me, this is like an absolute win.
His background is in player development, and for years we've been complaining that the Wizards, you could argue how good the players the Wizards draft are in terms of talent. Mm-hmm. But I don't think there's much of an argument in terms of how they've been developed. There's definitely been lacking. It's been lacking there, I think, or at least we think it's been lacking, regardless of what you think of kind of the player's upside. So getting a player with a strong background in player development, getting a coach, with a strong background in player development is big. I like the EuroLeague experience. I like kind of how he's been around all over the place, and that gives you a lot of different perspectives. Yep. And obviously, Damian Lillard's kind of his co-signing the hire, or just kind of how he credits him for teaching him how to lead. I think timing-wise, it works really well with this organization. You just drafted Bilal Coulibaly, who may be the face of this team in a couple of years. You want to get those type of coaches in with him early so that he could develop his. Look, we don't know how long Vanderpool is going to be here because he's interviewed for head coaching jobs.
He might end up the next coach or the head coach of the Wizards. I'm just saying, we finally put a guy on the staff that could push Wes Unseld and be the replacement if we have to move on. Just throwing that out there.
Brian Keefe is also interviewed for head coaching jobs, if I'm correct, right? So you have 2 strong candidates who have now coming in who are coming in as assistant coaches on the staff. You don't know how long they're going to be here. Maybe one, like you said, maybe one takes over eventually. But that said, you want them here early with Bilal. You want them so that those habits, those leadership habits, that kind of work ethic is established, is kind of put in up front. So because those are Bilal to like the 10th, or much more than Tristan, but even Tristan, those are the 2 most important players on the roster, in my opinion. Like I was asked today, who do I think is going to get a extension between Corey and Denny? I was like, what about neither? You know,
Yeah,
I was like, really the only two players that I'm confident are going to be on the roster next year in 24, 25 are Bilal and Tristan, you know? So get these new developmental coaches in with them, these guys who stress that, these strong background coaches, also who have like great, just kind of overall, they're not just coming from one staff. They've come from, I think Brian Keefe worked under Popovich for a while, right? So, you know, so you have a lot of different perspectives. You have good developmental background, track records. It's nothing but positive out of this, you know?
You're putting Wes Unseld on notice, I think, at the very least, of like, now there are finally guys like Joseph Blair was never realistically going to be a candidate to replace Wes Unseld. Like, these are both guys that, like, if you shit the bed and the team doesn't respond to you, like, now there's some pressure on you. And this is not your front office that hired you. Yes, the owner kind of protected you this offseason by all accounts, but you know, if they're checked out by like game 15 or something, like you got to check yourself a little bit if you're West, because these guys are competent enough that somebody could feel fine with them being an interim for the rest of the year. And I think some of this is cliched a little bit, but you look at Vanterpool and just like his resume. Won the Russian League twice.
It's extensive.
Run the Russian Cup twice. He's a EuroLeague champion. He's an all EuroLeague second teamer. He's Italian League, Italian Super Cup, Italian Super Cup MVP. He won in the ABA. He won in the CBA. He was a first team all defender in the CBA. He's their assist leader one of those years. And like you said, he's coached at multiple places. As a coach, his team won a EuroLeague. As a coach, his team won 5 Russian League championships. Like, the dude brings some amount of winning pedigree with him. And I think that stuff really does translate. Like, they're different leagues, but like winning habits are winning habits. And the leadership stuff, like I'm not saying Poole is more important than Coulibaly, but like if you can make Poole a leader and people buy into the physical skills and things like that already, like I'm team Poole in the Jordan Poole Draymond Green fight. But he was probably immature, right? So if you're Vanterpool and you can help him grow up, at the worst case, it gives him more trade value down the road to think, well, this guy's also a leader and things like that too. So
and you've also
it's a win-win.
Yeah, and Vanterpool also has been with Dame. So he will see, hey, you know, if Poole is not getting it, similarly, he'll say, look, this guy just doesn't get it, you know?
And he can tell you, he does not have the habits that CJ had even, you know, like
right.
That's
he'll tell you,
comp.
And like he has 2 very good comps that he can compare the player to. And he can say, look, if he's getting it, you invest. And then that's kind of where it'll be interesting to see the dynamic between him and Wes Unseld Jr. If he's pushing one thing, if his players he thinks are developing, and how will Wes incorporate his suggestions and kind of what he's doing. But yeah, just as important, he'll tell you who's not working and who's not coming along the right way and who doesn't have the right habits, because Dame and CJ are fantastic models in terms of like what you want your young players to aspire to.
Especially CJ, the parallels with him and Poole are like they're similarly sized 2 guards that aren't crazy athletes and little undersized for their position. And I mean, obviously CJ went around the lottery, was he 13 or whatever, but he wasn't like a heralded guy coming in.
It was a weaker draft where he kind of just had a good tournament
from a smaller school, lesser known guy. So I think you can tell, like, is he going to put in the work to be that kind of player? And that'll be interesting. You mentioned the other guy here, and that's Brian Keefe that they also brought in. He's a former college assistant. He was a video coordinator for the Spurs. He was an assistant coach in Oklahoma City. I think that's where he crossed paths with some of these guys. With the Knicks, with the Lakers, most recently with the Nets. I think he and Vanterpool worked together in Brooklyn, so there's some relationship there as well, which is cool. And yeah, this is just another guy that, you know, has some pedigree there, but also Kevin Durant was really complimentary of, and Kevin Durant's not like a bullshit blow smoke kind of guy about these dudes that coached him. Like, he's happily willing to roast them if he doesn't think they actually help. So the fact that he gave Keefe some love, I think, is an actual meaningful thing. And I love both of these hires for that reason. Yeah. And I think just overall is encouraging, like the front office that they've built and the coaching staff that they're bringing in. Kind of the question for years has been, is Washington a destination? And in terms of players, we still don't know. Yeah. Like, that's to be determined because frankly hasn't happened yet. But in terms of what they're doing on the front office side, in terms of what they're doing on the coaching side, people seem to want to come here. Yeah. I don't know if they're just overpaying everyone or if that's what's behind it. I doubt that they're paying twice market. I'm sure they're paying market, but it seems to be that this is kind of a spot that
that players are trying to get, not players, coaches, front office execs, they're trying to get in at the ground level because they know what it's going to be potentially with Dawkins and Winger. So that's a good sign, I think.
Last thing I got for you, the Wizards signed Eugene Omoruyi to a two-way contract. He played for 3 years at Rutgers, sat out a year because he was pre-transfer portal stuff, or 1 year transfer waiver. 1 year at Oregon as a junior at Rutgers, where he was basically a small ball big. He averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds. Was on a two-way with the Mavs, got hurt and got cut. Two-way with the Thunder. They converted him to a multi-year deal, then got cut. Signed 10 days in a row with the Pistons, signed for the rest of the year. Didn't get brought back. I asked my friend Bryce Simon, who played at American and is the host of the Pistons Pulse podcast, what he thought of Eugene Omoruyi, and he said, he was okay. Great two-way guy. Help you try out for the Wizards there. I don't know what your forward room is like, but he plays really, really hard, so maybe he can push guys. I think that's the whole thing here is like you've got 3 two-way contracts now. Maybe this guy just like lights a fire under people's asses. And Jahadi always talks about like how important it is to have a couple guys in practice that will just like work and play hard and kind of like bring the energy. And you need that throughout the course of the year. So as long as the other two-ways are used on like real developmental guys, I'm okay with this. But couldn't we have also just signed him to a G League contract probably?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know.
Look, getting a 26-year-old who's going to be 27 next season, kind of like throwback, undersized big as your two-way contract doesn't really excite me.
He's slightly younger Anthony Gill. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah. Like, maybe they're planning on Anthony Gill. I think there was that tweet that he might be going back to the EuroLeague next year. Yeah. So maybe he's your Anthony Gill replacement. But, you know, I'm not thrilled about that someone that old to a two-way. You'd like the two-ways contract to be for someone who you think could eventually develop into young, playable roster player. And I just don't see that. Kind of a throwback type player, not a modern day NBA player. But like, look, if you're thinking about him in terms of his job is to come in and get physical with Gafford and Tristan in practice, all good. Just don't hurt them, you know?
Right, exactly. When Kuzma doesn't want to practice because he's playing 38 minutes a game, can Omoruyi fit in practice or something like that? Yeah, that's fine. It's not ideal. I would have rather seen a guy like a DJ Stewart from the Summer League team. I was really impressed with Stewart in like minimal minutes. The scoring kind of came and went, but the guy was like slapping the floor at half court when he was picking guys up, you know, from the opposite 3-point line. It's like, oh, okay, I like this shit. And he's younger and he's athletic and he looks like a modern wing. Those are the kind of dudes I want to see that like fill out the go-go roster. So a few of those, Donovan Williams even would have been more impressive to me. They're guys that have both had like cups of coffee in the NBA, so they could maybe give you the same things that Omoruyi does. But he played at Rutgers. You know, their coaching staff has really turned them into a defensive-minded system and program. So I think this is a guy that will come in and at least like scrap. So that's something.
Yeah, I agree. Is he? Are the other two-way? Is Quentin Jackson still on a two-way contract?
It has not been announced. I think they have like rights to him to bring him back on a two-way this year, like basically a restricted free agency for two ways, but he is not currently signed to a two-way deal to my knowledge.
I didn't see much to say bring him back either. So like you said, I hope those other two spots are used for actually more developmental players. Quentin Jackson was, I'm not going to say it was the biggest disappointment of Summer League because I didn't have high expectations, but I cringed every time he came onto the floor. So I don't know if that's a good thing.
He looked like, and that was the thing. People saw highlights last year and convinced themselves like that he was the future of the Wizards somehow, but because he dunks really good. And it's like, well, you didn't watch him do anything else. Like, do you know if he can shoot or dribble and defend, which he really kind of can't do any of those three things at the moment. But I will say he looked much better to me for most of the go-go season than he looked at any point during Summer League. So maybe he is a guy that needs more structure and things like that. You know, so we'll see. I got a couple Summer League related pods lined up for people. DJ Vasiljevic that played on the Summer League team was the gunner for them from the Sydney Kings. Going to try to get him on here. And then QJ Peterson that played for the Knicks Summer League team had a really great tweet about like coming in, pushing people hard, and being that like spark plug off the bench. He played at VMI. He is an absolute bucket getter. So QJ is probably going to come on here too and talk about just a little bit like what Summer League is like. So Oz, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Any final shots here before we get you out of here?
The one thing I'm wondering, and we could talk about this at some other point. the roster, like you kind of saw the numbers. Like there's still some things to be done on the roster side. Like what's going to happen with Shamet? What's going to happen with DeLon Wright? Because I think Bilal showed you enough where he has to get on the court.
Gallo even,
even Gallo. Like, and the funny thing is, like, initially they said it was a buyout candidate, and someone said that no, he doesn't want to buy out. So I think to me, that translates to no one wants to sign me right away.
Exactly.
So why would I give any money back? So my best path might be show I'm healthy with the Wizards, and then I get my release, or buy me out later on in the season. So there are a few things there that still need to be played out. I don't really know what their plan is at the center position. Is Tristan going to come in right away? Because right now all they have is Gafford, really. So I think there's still some moving parts. Those are things I'm interested in watching because, like, it's still funny. They have some competent players, like they have, Kuzma, Poole, Tyus Jones, but like you could tell there's some really deficient areas on the roster, and it's not like we need a finished product now because I think the goal is not ultimately to be very competitive, but if you're trying to start a culture reset and create the right habits, I don't know if they have the right talent there for that at all the spots yet.
Mike Muscala, small ball 5, baby. We're doing it. It's coming. Let's have a follow-on convo here sometime later this week or something about just what the roster looks like and who we want to start and all that good stuff. Oz, always appreciate your time, man. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Just believe in Wizards. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're watching this, click that little subscribe button or like button on the YouTube video here for us. We appreciate you. Brought to you by betonline.ag, and we will catch you all next time.